I got to use that.
I think it's quite funny. John Potion, like, genuinely, like, makes me giggle. Like, it's just such a funny little. Oh, here's my good friend John Potion. It's just good.
Welcome to Energy Potion, a flesh and blood podcast where we chat about trying, failing, and sometimes succeeding to play flesh and blood as competitively as we can. This episode was recorded in front of a live audience at an exclusive secret location. Before you smash the like, follow, or subscribe buttons, just take a moment. Do you really want your friends and connections to hear the latest hot takes and brute techs before you get to play them yourself? Is it Rhinar's time to shine?
That's the question, John. That's the question on probably everyone's lips, I think. And for once, I don't know if I'm qualified to give the answer.
What?
I really don't know. As you can imagine, I have been in the kitchen somewhat, brewing.
I can imagine.
Working on a few bits and bobs. I think I have 5 Rhinar lists at the moment. Host SUP, SuperSlam, set code for those in the know. Using a myriad of weapons and playstyles. And they all feel, with the exception of Romping Club, pretty solid.
Don't let Jesse say that.
Well, I think there is a time and a place for the Romping Club. Like me and the Romping Club, we go way back. You know, we're good friends, good family friends, me and the Romping Club.
Yep.
And I think already just from like the one card we've seen from the Rhinar Armory deck, just like skipping ahead to November, that one card being 1 a blue 6 and 2 having beat chest synergy, I think that's going to be a club deck.
Okay.
So I think we're going to get club support. I think the time for club will come.
Right.
I also do think that, again, tinfoil hat on, part of the reason that Rhinar's getting an armory deck is because they definitely don't think that Mandible Claw's making it to November. But we'll get to CAD real soon. But no, in terms of Rhinar, I think a lot of these new supercars, not even necessarily in the Majestic slot, like even in rare and common, especially a lot of the cards that Tough Nut wants to be using either in Constructed or in Limited, are the ones that Rhinar's going to pick up. The ones that are like the yellow 6s. Yellow 6s costed at 2 cost, John, which is actually groundbreakingly good. Along with more clash cards and just generally just better utility pieces for the most part. Again, with more access to go again as well. Rhinar has access to what we call obviously the cheater package, like the wild rides and the pulpings, the non-blocks, jaw discards kind of stuff. The more aggressive Eugene build, if you will. That has benefited a lot from having just access to more good 6s you want in the deck. You now run less of a risk of drawing and hitting a miss because you don't have to play as many misses because you're playing better, stronger cards. You can keep pace with other aggro decks because of these good cards. And you can punish blocks against decks that otherwise would want to block you because we now have clashes on attacks as well, which is really, really cool. But obviously the way I prefer playing Rhinar, more like Blood Rush Control, also benefits because we've gotten new cards that, again, block well, but also have more like pseudo disruption. So there's obviously a new card, I think it's common, it might be rare, comes in all 3 colors, Strongest Survives. Red is a 3 cost 7, yellow is a 3 cost 6, so both in Rhinar's ballpark, and says on hit, the opponent, the hero who's hit, the opponent who's hit has to reveal a card from their hand with power more than the damage dealt, otherwise they discard a card. Which, into ninjas, into aggro decks, into low red line lists that don't want to block in the first place,
Yep.
they'll eat that 7 and then usually not be able to reveal a 7 and have to give you a card anyway. So they're encouraged to give you a card.
Yeah.
And even if they give you 1 card and they take 4...
They're giving you 2.
Exactly.
So they're saying no blocks to a 7.
Exactly.
And taking 7.
So that's a nice little 2-card hand. And they're the kind of tempo hands that let you build up and buy the space for these blood rushes. And then we're looking at, like, obviously these other like 2-cost attacks for 6 or 7 that really benefit from those blood rush turns. One of which, finally now coded on Talishar, by the way, is Flex Speed.
Everyone's talking about this card.
2 cost at red, attack for 5, so it doesn't immediately scream Rhinar card in red, but it does say if it's power of 6 or higher, it gets go again. So that is like premium level blood rush spike card, the kind of card that you immediately park in the arsenal, and when the Blood Rush turns up, you get to go play your Blood Rush, lead with a 7 go again.
Yep.
Into claw, into something else. Maybe even a swing big. And then you're looking at quite a spike turn of 7 into 10, which, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is 27. With an Intimidate, by the way.
Yep, okay.
So
with an Intimidate.
And those are like the immediate ones I'm looking at. I'm also looking at Ravenous Meat Axe, because I love my Meat Axe. I'm also looking at 2 new brutes, John, who've been added to the fray, who also get to play all these cards.
Hang on. So, this weekend it was the world premiere.
Yes,
and we finally saw all the cards. So moving slightly adjacent from Rhinar, before we go into any other heroes, right? Did you watch the world premiere?
I did. I watched as much of it as I could. The day one, which is to say the premiere itself, I watched a little bit of, because it's nice to see people, playing for fun and seeing the cards literally for the first time. But obviously a lot of the information that I kind of want is gleaned from the calling itself, right? The actual rated event the 2 days after. So I paid a lot more attention to the day 2 of the calling and the top 8 of the calling.
Right.
Which technically is marginally different from sealed, because obviously it was draft and such, but still lots to learn from that for the limited format itself, which it does unfortunately is a crying shame that we're not going to get too many tiered events of it. But also it gives you an inkling as to how the heroes will play and constructed as well, which is very, very relevant.
And that's what I need, Toby. I need those inklings. I need those inklings because I watched a little bit. Of Montreal, but it was a busy weekend. I've not caught up yet. It's busy life, Toby.
Me too.
Can you bring me up to speed on these new heroes? What do I need to do?
I can to a degree. I think they all look obviously incredibly interesting. They're all pushing, as we were talking about a few episodes back, they're all pushing the design space for their respective classes in different directions. Of the 4, it's probably KO Underhanded Cheat that is going to be the hardest to pass and figure out properly for constructed. I don't know if right now necessarily he has all the tools he needs or wants to really do anything that any other deck isn't capable of doing. You know what I mean? Because immediately you look at a deck like Pleiades or a deck like Laiath, and you look at these new instant speed Guardian Auras, block 3 by the way, and you can immediately see what their game plan is.
Yeah.
You can see that Pleiades is going to want to try and set up this juggling act, spinning plates act, where she gets to put down a bunch of auras that buff and a bunch of auras that she wants to stick around, and she's going to want to activate her ability and shift those counters, from those auras of suspense, those suspense counters, from her buffs like Act of Glory and such, to the blues that block 2 that have the constant effects. So she wants those to pop early, and then she wants the other ones to linger, and she wants to set up these big spike turns where she's coming in for ideally a crush effect or an on-hit effect for a silly number like 24. We've already seen some silly numbers in our Seabass chat of Pleiades attacks coming in with confidence tokens. And Laiath wants to do something relatively similar, and obviously he can leverage that extra card by saying, look, it doesn't block well and it doesn't attack well, but it still pitches for 3, which means I can fire out these auras. And sure, I can't mess with when they're going to pop, but I can buy the time to set it up and make all these might tokens, and then I can throw in either these new tower dwarf crush cards that we've seen that are designed for him.
Such a cool design.
0 cost 3 block Guardian attacks. 3 block
Guardian attacks, but if you buff them enough, they're amazing.
Yeah, or again, and this is a discussion that me and Finley had the other day. There's your obligatory Finley mention, by the way, Finley. In that we were talking about how Laiath has ended up on Titan's Fist, which is a shame because I would have liked to have seen his own weapon. But the more I think about it, the more I think that Titan's Fist is actually a very apt weapon for the Tower Guardian, the Tower Dwarf Guardian. In that Laiath is in fact the Titan. Because again, a lot of his game plan does seem to resolve around, if you're not firing one of those attacks off for a stupid amount, you're still firing Titan's Fist in for 18 and just going, well, here's flat damage. Are you going to do about 18 damage? You can still keep that 5-card hand and use it to just leverage Terror Sunder on the hammer instead. Again, one of the benefits of these new buffs is that they do get to target any attack, not necessarily Guardian attack action cards, which is one of the issues that Bravo and I suppose to a degree Victor didn't really matter as much back in the day, is that if you were playing Towering Titan or you were playing like Crashdown, for example, you had to then draw into the attack to really make it worth it. Whereas now, you're quite content to just sling it on the hammer, throw it down. So they're in a pretty good spot. And then Tough Nut, I do think, has like a breadth of directions you can go. And I have been going. Don't you worry, John.
Of course.
I do think, obviously, immediately everyone jumped to Rock, as one does. You know,
well,
Rock,
it's such an obvious play, but that, to me,
it's at the forefront of one's mind at all times.
They've released Tough Nut in a set with Lyeth. I suspect the obvious play is not the best play with Tough Nut.
Well, potentially. I mean, the initial build that everyone jumped to was, you know, the 60 blues.
Yep, 60 blues and Rock.
Always resolve Rock. And that's a good number. Like, the numbers as a whole, if you're blocking 9 and presenting 7,
yeah,
that's a good turn cycle.
Confidence says no.
Well, confidence makes blocking a lot harder, but the idea is that you'd play lots of blues that let you discard them, right, or let them play them out, so that even if you are locked with cards in hand, you could still get them out of hand and resolve Rock. I think that is a build of Tough Nut. I hope it doesn't become the actual build. I think now we've seen the full set. Now we've seen Brutes having access to making Vigor tokens, which is kind of huge, by the way.
Yep.
It means he's not restricted to playing exclusively blues. It means he can play this swathe of really good Brute and Revered yellow cards that have 6 power. So you're constantly cycling that toughness token as well. Because just looking at the limited, that toughness token and multiple toughness tokens is really relevant for his game plan. It's really important that he gets to leverage the extra, essentially, cards worth of block in 3 toughness tokens on some attacks. It means he probably is going to fall prey to like these go wide aggro decks. Like, I don't think a Syndra matchup's going to be as favourable as perhaps other Brutes might find it. But if a deck's wanting to go tall against Tough Nut, it is going to be tough because he is a tough nut. So I do think there's going to be Rock builds. I think there's going to be someone's going to crack it. I haven't quite figured out the numbers yet on like reds to yellows to blues and like the overall 6 ratios. But someone's going to figure it out, and it's going to be a fantastic mid-range grindy numbers deck. I think probably Romping Club is a better fit for him. I think it makes things a lot easier. It means you get to play a lot more 6s.
Yep.
You get to, and again, you're not punished if you ever do whiff. You still get to swing your weapon.
Yeah.
And you don't get punished for keeping cards in hand either. So you get to set up an arsenal and set up these crazy four card hands.
And just have the resources off the top anyway.
Exactly. So you've got that extra one. Because again, this is something that we saw a lot of over the weekend, is that you can leverage that Tough Nut activation at instant speed.
Yeah.
And while for the most part you're usually using it to pay for your turn, it was used defensively quite a lot. Like you could quite often see it used to like pay for a Brothers in Arms on your turn, still make the toughness token, and then obviously carry that toughness token through to their next turn.
Yes.
So you know that it's coming, and obviously it also lets you set up a pitch stack quite nicely too, because you know what's going down there. You know that you get to put some power cards away that your opponent will see, but it means you don't have to worry about blocking with them. You can tuck them for later.
Yeah. And with the occasional sink below, they won't see some things.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is if you're playing this like full turbo blue build, it's very risky to play a red, because if it's this, you lose a whole turn's worth of value. Whereas if you're playing this more balanced build that has, you can spare a few slots for reds, you can spare a few slots for utility yellows and such as well. It feels like almost like a gravy deck in that regard, and that like currently I've got gravy on 9 reds. And they're like 9 good reds, but that's like as high as I can go really, because I can't justify not hitting a red or not hitting a blue or a yellow on an important turn. And I think maybe Tough Nut falls into a similar bracket, regardless of the weapon he's using. But like I said, it does help that his yellows are really good. Yeah, his yellows are really good.
Look, all the heroes look pretty strong.
They do,
other than Archaea, but I think that's just because we haven't. I think will come in strong, potentially even this weekend. Someone may have cracked it and not told anyone yet. Possibly. Saving it for this weekend.
Possibly. I do think of the 4, I think...
Oh, no, it's not this weekend. Next weekend.
Next weekend is... It's not Hamburg,
this weekend's
is it?
Pre-release. Next weekend, there's an event somewhere.
It might be... Is it Shizuoka, or was that this weekend? I can't remember. We'll fix it in post. What I will say is I think RKO is, as I was saying, of the 4, the one that would most benefit from a specially designed weapon. Because as it stands, he's got such a lack of synergy with the rest of the Brute sort of like package, and Brutes as a whole being a whole class built around synergy, obviously built around the 6 and discarding and such like that. It's very hard to use any of the weapons currently available to him. Like Mandible Claw doesn't really do much, Ballbreaker doesn't do much, Mini Meat Axe doesn't do much, and he can't even use Talishar, and so you're kind of like, maybe he needs his own thing. And I was thinking for the longest time that, like, I thought they were going to give him a weapon that he could use his ability on, because his ability does work on weapons.
Do you know what? I can see a Mandible Claw too.
Well, yeah.
Like if we're talking about skipping out a bit, Mandible Claw maybe disappearing soon, which is why Rhinar's getting an armory deck, then maybe at some point there's a Mandible Claw 2 in an expansion slot
I could see a reimagining of Mandible Claw to a degree. I could see it costing 1 and coming in for 2 instead, and still having the discard and go again clause. Clause as in clause, not clause as in clause. And then that lines up more nicely with RKO's ability, right? In that you get to swing it, and then you've got the 2 left over, and if you could then pitch into his ability, then it buffs it to 6. And then you can do some stuff with that.
Which might even make it come in for 1. It's a 1-for-1.
Well, a 1-for-1 rate is
poor, unless you buff it.
Well, it needs to have an 8 go again, really, if it's doing that. Which is why the 2 was kind of where I'm going from. So it doesn't have an 8 go again, you need to have discarded, which RKO wouldn't really have access to, but the other Brutes would. So you could still play it in Levia. And 9 times out of 10 in Levia, honestly, you're swinging claws on Blood Rush turns almost exclusively. So being able to have that just extra 2 resources on a Blood Rush turn means that you could. So I've thought about it a lot. I've discussed it a lot with all 4 of the other Brute players in the country.
Not anymore.
Sorry, I think we're up to 5 now. Lucian's going to play KO, I think. So.
Well, okay, so let's talk about KO, because this is the elephant in the room.
Okay, yes.
Heavy KO.
Well, let's talk about Armed and Dangerous, CAD, as I've been calling him now, to differentiate from RKO, or Cuck, as Aiden's been calling him, Underhanded Cheat. So you got CAD.
I can see RKO and the CAD. The CAD, I think it needs to be.
The CAD, capitalized T.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not. Well, we'll see how results end up. It might be that he's no CAD at all, John. But
come on.
I think. Well, this is again. We can run it back a little bit, because again, I think he was already in a pretty decent spot. We were discussing this only a few weeks ago, right? In that his numbers still feel really good. His numbers were good. His matchup spread, for the most part, is pretty fine.
His game plan is relatively learnable. There's nothing...
Again, he's easy to pick up, difficult to master. I think that's a fine spot to be in for any deck that you want to take to an event.
Even Aiden 1 managed to do well in Armory playing him, so it's, you know... For those who don't get to many games, you can just pick him up and have a go and do well.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Aiden does just have an uncanny knack for children's card games. It is actually really unfair.
One of the few PQ winners in chat, by the way.
Yeah. Again, on a deck that he'd played for a month. So okay, maybe that's not unfair.
Not a good leveler for the skill.
KO is he was already in a good spot. He was already fine. Again, Earth was keeping him to a degree at bay, and it was tough because in aggro mirrors, sometimes you just had to rely on the luck of the draw, or the luck of the draw and discard, and you could kind of find yourself on the back end of that variance, drawing your Bare Fangs and your Pulpings when you desperately need to block out a Sindri turn, for example, or getting hit by the high roll by a Cilio. Because generally, as it stood, I should say, the only deck really keeping him in check that was a meta threat was Verdance. And Verdance was already trending down to a degree, with Gravy trending up. Then obviously BNR happens, Earth comes back with a vengeance, Florian comes back to the forefront, KO looks a lot worse. But then obviously we get SuperSlam.
You get SuperSlam.
We get a lot of new toys for him.
You get the new arms.
So we get, well, let's start with the new arms, because I do think they are immediately
busted.
Yeah,
compared to what he had before, which was still good.
Yeah.
And was worth, 5 points of value over the course of a game?
Well, in theory, so for the Apex Bonebreaker maths, in KO, where you're still playing a degree of actual true 6s, you wanted to be gaining your 3 block value and your 2 might tokens off of it.
Yeah.
Almost to make it worth it. And again, five value on a piece of equipment is insane value. Let's not pretend it is not.
It's not ninja numbers, but it's close.
But
right?
there was a hoop to jump through, and the hoop was that you need to have drawn your 6, and also you're on a turn where you want to use it. And also, for the most part, you don't typically get to choose when your opponent deploys breakpoints.
Yeah.
So you need them to line up there really as well to maximize the value. Like if you're blocking the first time with Apex on a 4 breakpoint, you are losing that point of value.
Yeah, true.
So sometimes it adds up. Into some heroes, it adds up a lot better than to others. For example, like into ninjas is a bit worse, but even then you get the most out of it. The new gauntlets of I think it's Tyrannical Rex, I think.
Something like that.
Obviously, look incredible, really really cool. They have what I call the pseudo rock claws that they've sort of started putting into this set, in that you can't activate them unless you have a 6 already in your pitch zone.
Yes.
So that restrictive clause that obviously Rock has, in that you can't activate it unless you have
can't
cards in
lead
hand.
with it.
So you can't open with it, but it means that KO can now translate what he often had, which is like this leftover floating resource or 2, into just an extra point of damage consistently.
Yeah.
And obviously he's still got temper 2. So it's already got 3 on the block, same as Apex.
So it's gone from being worth 5 to worth 7 or more.
Well, if you can activate it 3 times in a game, it's coming in for more than Apex.
Yeah.
And also, it is not forcing you to give up a card on blocks, which means you're keeping more 4-card, 5-card hands. So you're playing more aggressively as a whole.
It's a huge upgrade. It's a huge, terrifying upgrade.
And that whole keeping a 5-card hand and presenting more overall 5-card, 4-card hands ties into the other cards that he's received as well.
And he's getting Vigor tokens. And he's getting more, and he's getting more go again.
Well, and that's the part that links it to it, John, is that like, because he's a brute, despite obviously having access to 24 blue 6s, quote unquote, in his ability, he was still somewhat floodgated to a degree by the amount of go again intrinsically that you have in the brute class. Like, he gets to play Wild Ride and pulping and Yellow Wild Ride with no real worries whatsoever. Obviously he gets to still play Blood Rush and get access to the claw and stuff in the go again like that, but you will still draw hands that are that don't go again, and so you end up giving 2 cards to block or 1 card to block, throwing out usually a decent enough attack and then asking a card for a future turn. These new go again sources in Flex Claws and in the 3-cost one, that if you've got a 6 or more power in your pitch zone, it gets go again. I forget, it comes in 3 colors. More innate go again that doesn't require the discard, means that these 4-card hands can be converted a lot more consistently and for pretty decent numbers too. Like, even if you end up having a might token left over, throwing a Flex Clause in for 6 go again, 1 resource floating, that 1 resource can then be put into the gauntlets, and then you can just like pitch another card to claw for 4, arsenal the last card, or ideally convert that last resource and then pitch into swing big for 9. So you're presenting that. So you're not resetting your might token like KO was liking to do, but obviously you've got enough options that you're still like usually making that might token enough. Not to mention we've got things like Song of Sinew now as well, like as other like front buffs and ways to convert your 4-card hands that he didn't have access to before. So yeah, for the most part, the real kicker is that it's very rare now to draw a hand in CAD that you look at and immediately go, oh, I need to give 2 cards here, and to get some value on blocks. So
the other thing that leads on from that, I've been doing some testing with KO, into and with KO, is when are you rolling scabs anymore? Because I think I think in testing, looking back on the games, it's never been correct to roll scabs.
There's a lot of people who would agree with you, John, even before these new cards.
Okay, yeah, fine. Scabs had a place. Before this set, scabs had a place. People would maybe roll it too much, but there was in my head, scabs is there as a fixer sometimes, and sometimes you didn't fix it. But it was there because it fixed some things and got you out of a hole.
Well, that was one of the initial...
And it happened to once... You needed it once or twice a game, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, if at all. And
maybe
again,
you needed it once or twice a game, but now I think Kira's moved into a space where he doesn't need it. Full stop.
I mean, I think he was already pretty close.
Yeah.
I think even just out of heavy...
Is it still the best leg piece?
Well, it's 3 life.
3 life.
It's 3 life.
Is that it?
I mean,
and that's kind of it now, isn't it?
There is an argument for the longest time, Armed and Dangerous hasn't needed that, because again, one of the intrinsic weaknesses written into Brute's initial core design and Rhiner's initial core design was that he was action point locked.
Yeah.
If you were going to like set up these bigger turns, you were having to rely on things like breakneck battery or other stuff like that, or you roll the dice. So if your opponent gives you the 4-card hand as Rhiner, they were doing it under the same assumption that you would like giving Bravo the 4-card hand and going, cool, well, I'll give you 4 cards. If you can convert them, I'll get punished, but I doubt you can.
Yeah.
Where Brute had the out of going, well, my cards don't intrinsically have go again, but I've always got the scabs. And you were back in the day, you played Gambler's Gloves because you were encouraged to build around this pushing your luck. Like again, if you look at a hand, a 4-card hand, and you see Savage Feast, a blue, and a Beast within, and you've got Gambler's Gloves up, you're all but encouraged to take the risk, declare no blocks, and go, cool, well, if I roll just a regular, like if I roll a 2 or a 3, then no harm, no foul, I'll just throw a 2-card 6, lose a bit of value on the turn, arsenal a card, and reset for next turn. If you hit the double, you are up, and you're presenting essentially one of the highest damage turns that you could have done at the time, and still to this day is still pretty solid, especially in something like Rhiner. But that's now being written out, I suppose, of what Brute's core set is, like core ideology is. Maybe largely because a lot of people don't like being high rolled by scabskins, but also because again, like Brute needs to have been taken in a different direction, because obviously it was flailing to a degree. Like KO
this is what they've done with this set, is taken 2 classes who
were struggling.
Didn't have modern identities, shall we say.
Well, if we were talking about like Fab 1.0, 2.0, and possibly 3.0, Brutes were still very much in Fab, maybe even 1.0, maybe 1.5. Like KO being the only real example of a hero that feels like it could have gone toe-to-toe with some of the newer ideas.
But if not scabs, what should KO be playing?
Probably still scabs.
Okay, fine.
There's an argument for beaten trackers. I've been playing beaten trackers in my sideboards for the longest time for Brutes. Into matchups that you think rarely go more than 4 turns, or where you're not getting the block value out of Scabskins, like into Wizards, for example. However, Scabskins does, and probably always will, have the break in case of emergency clause.
Yeah, true.
And that if you are hideously down,
and
there's no chance of you winning if you don't roll them, but it can get you back in the game, Scabskins can get you back in the game.
Yeah.
And that's less, and that I would say is the counter to the there is never a correct time to roll scabs, because that is the correct time to roll scabs. It's when if you were losing anyway, and it could get you back into the game.
Yeah.
Like, because it's one of those things where if you roll the 1, you get to go, cool, well, I concede, I'm going to go grab lunch.
I was going to lose anyway. I could see that I was going to lose anyway. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Whereas you hit the 6, you go, well, I'm afraid I've outplayed you there, my friend.
So,
and away you go.
How many weeks have we got till KOLs?
Or of ProQuest.
Well, you know, if this is...
Because we have a 6-week ProQuest season, right?
Yes, we do.
I mean, first and foremost, how many points is he on now?
That's a fantastic question, Toby.
It's a question I'm going to ask my small computer, my small handheld computer.
Because he's more than a year old, so he's at 1.5 speed for LL point collection.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I don't think we've got internet
our
yet.
secret location,
the secret location
seems to have been hit with
has an internet outage, so we're not going to find out how many points he's got. Let's discuss that one next week when we've done some research.
I mean, I'll just throw out a number, John, and assume it's correct.
Go on.
I think he's like at 700-ish.
Okay, so if it's a 700, I don't think it matters because we don't know how many PQs there are going to be, so I don't know why we're doing research now. At least 5. At least 5 PQs.
Yes, I think.
Yeah. Plus,
again, I'm checking the data now.
Then there's a battle hardened, then there's some callings. When does he LL? Roughly?
I think
first week of November.
I mean, first and foremost, the question is, do we think he goes this season?
Yes.
Yes, I think he does too.
He goes this season.
I think this season we're looking at maybe losing KO and Kano.
Yes.
I think it's possible.
Yep.
I
makes
think
me sad. Also happy because I keep mistyping them in the chat.
Yes, also means that you don't have to wonder about pivoting to Kano again.
Yeah.
So you're saved.
Well, I've given up on that.
It's for the best.
It's never going to happen.
Leave Kano
I've opened the Kano deck up. It still has the books in. It made me sad. I've closed the Kano deck back up.
I couldn't possibly burn them. How could I? So I think there's a distinction to be made between decks that can perform at the highest level, like tier 3 to tier 4. I do think KO wasn't in that spot. I do think with his new cards, he probably does hit that spot in the hands of a very skilled pilot who enjoys playing aggro. I think he's one of the threats to worry about.
So in the mirror, playing Syndra,
sure,
I am entirely reliant on the KO player, assuming no misplays on each side or no major misplays on each side. I'm entirely reliant on them blocking correctly with scowling. That is what the entire match hinges on.
Fleshbag, the ability to use Fleshbag effectively is since its printing been
if they fleshbag badly, I win. If they fleshbag well, I lose.
Also, there was a degree where you're still dependent on the first 20 cards of the deck either way. And obviously,
there's enough consistency in both decks that you can be dependent on the first 20 cards.
Yeah, and you're not.
Yeah, you know.
That's what's really been added to KO. And that's why
maybe all 3 Blood Rush Bellows are in the last 30 cards. I've seen that before.
It does happen.
Happened to Nick once. I think it was in his last 10 cards, all 3 of them. Fine.
Or they'll clump together and you'll get 2 Blood Rushes in the same hand. And
but it seems to rely on this scowling is the thing.
I mean, it's a big impact. There's obviously, as the deck becomes more consistent, and it is becoming more consistent, but the play patterns themselves will also encourage the more skilled and more adept player, in theory, to be the one that should win.
But that makes him the aggro deck of choice, right? That makes him, I think, the aggro deck of choice.
In the hands of, again, like the kind of players that we expect to be playing at multiple callings and battle hardens and stuff, and going around the world playing at them, I do think that KO will be on their radar as one of their options.
He's got some more disruption. He's pumping out consistently big numbers. Even Earth can't cover some of those numbers.
Well, and that's part of the reason that he gets his time in the sun a little bit, is because the Earth decks that we're keeping him in check obviously do fall prey to these hyper early game aggro lists that present this consistent damage, and where KO had a bit of a tendency to sometimes have those misturns, as I was saying. Now with all this extra go again, those misturns are a lot less consistent, and sure, while his numbers are a lot more in line with how Earth wants to block, like the 7s into the 5s into the 7s kind of thing, there's only so much they can block without leaking damage, and there's only so much damage they can leak before getting online, where before KO is going for the throat. So like I was saying, I think at the highest level, he's going to be an option. I don't think he's necessarily the best deck in format. I do think he's up there.
Okay.
However, at the ProQuest level, I think all of those good points remain very, very much still relevant, very much still good. And obviously, the degree of outplay that might be required may not necessarily be there at that ProQuest level as well. Not to mention that, again, players who perhaps aren't as skilled and aren't as adept will be able to play KO to something approximating the same level.
And he's a brute. Sometimes someone will get lucky.
Well, that's the final factor, is that you could have picked up the game yesterday and have a general understanding of the rules and look at five hands back to back that are just perfect.
That's what happened to my friend.
Yep, again, it does. It happens. Sometimes you can just put together this silly turn.
Came to DICE to play one game of Flesh and Blood, not in a full tournament. He stayed for one game before catching his train, sat down on KO, and just drew the nuts.
Yeah, and presented a Blood Rush turn, pushing 28 damage. It can happen, and it will happen. And at the ProQuest level, when there are so many events happening and so many people just rocking up playing it, and again, a lot of people will be playing KO going, I think this is the best deck in the format.
Yeah.
And a lot of them might be right.
Yeah.
Because in any given room, at that kind of level, say you've got ProQuests that get 12 or so players, obviously most of the ones we go to have a few more than that, but it won't be hard for a KO to string together 5 wins back to back in that kind of thing and then pick up the points.
Yeah.
All around the world. Again, we're going to have more ProQuest this season than ever, probably, because I think we're getting more most seasons. And so the amount of points available to him, especially now that obviously he is on 1.5 as well, it won't take very long for him to get there. Now, like I say, the question is it all hype? Is he actually, are the changes actually relevant enough, or will we just sort of fall back into the rut where Earth is actually the deck that benefits the most?
I'm putting my money on KO being best deck in format, going I reckon KO and Kano are going actually probably soon enough in the season that we will get in the 5th or 6th week a PQ where there is no KO or Kano and there's a big meta shift.
I mean, there's going to be, to a degree, some degree of shift, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, it would be nice to see Mandible Claw finally see its way out and Brute finally get a bit more support towards other stuff. Obviously, it'll be sad because I do like playing Bod Rush with 2 claws, but I'll save that for Living Legend. Yeah, I've convinced myself, John. I think he goes this season.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you which week. I don't know if he necessarily will go before the end. Because again, there could be a deck that crops up that eats him and Earth Heroes for breakfast, like Acilio, for example, can if it hits the nuts early enough on in the game, can just go, cool, well, I don't care if you kill me in 4 turns because it's turn 2 and I've got Gong and Flash 7 times.
Yep.
Because KO can't afford to play any of the like the hate cards in the board outside of like a race face. Oh goodness, John, I don't know. There's too many options. There's too much.
Look, it's an exciting time.
It's a mess.
It's a really cool set. It's an exciting set. It's done something for Brute in a big way. It's done something for Guardian in a big way.
Yes.
And with all the expansion slots,
everyone's getting something.
There's something for everyone.
Yeah, maybe it's Fi's time to show.
I mean, I shared the image of the Talishar queue in the chat.
Yeah,
and you've got Olympia, Maxx, Arachne, Huntsman, all lined up next to each other, waiting for games.
Yeah, I don't know about those per se.
I think I still have high hopes for Maxx. Maybe after KO's gone, if KO and Kano go, Maxx becomes a real threat.
I mean, I think Maxx has been lingering on the fringes for a little while now.
But KO is one of those matches that he really struggles into, and Kano is, you've got to have 3 sideboard slots for Kano. That's a lot of sideboard slots. 4 sideboard slots for Kano.
And you've also got to change your game plan.
Oh, well, no, you don't. But you do need 4 sideboard slots.
You need 4 sideboard slots, sure.
So, and that's 4 sideboard slots, and he's maybe that shores him up enough for having that double-edged game plan. So I'm excited about what happens to Maxx when KO and Kano go. So I'm looking at Maxx as like, well, maybe for week 5, people. Maybe for week 5.
And it is a when, you think? It is a when.
When, exactly. It's a when, it's not an if.
Wow.
It's when these 2 go. Maxx, Earth Heroes, because if the Earth Heroes aren't good, it's because KO's overpowering them, basically.
Well, yes. It will be interesting to see how many... Like, how many slots KO can sort of actually spare to go over the top of these Earth Heroes, because obviously he was using Cast Bones, I was using a Limb from Limb, these like spike cards that let you essentially set up a 5-card hand and push. Obviously Earth does have ways to push you off a 5-card hand, so you're kind of playing into their game plan a little bit by setting up, but if you can get away with it and get unpunished, you can set up these big spike turns that push the damage. Whereas now, maybe he doesn't need the spikes as much as he needs the consistency, like I was saying. And so you see cards like that sort of fall out of favour. And you bring in cards instead that help shore up the aggro matchups and such, or the Gravy matchup, because I do think Gravy is also going to be still lingering around.
Yes, yeah.
And while I do think KO had a unique position into Gravy even before the bans, and I think therefore he probably actually has a pretty good shot into him now as being a deck that can both pressure Gravy and his allies quite consistently. Gravy players, myself obviously excluded, are typically quite good at the game and adjusting the deck for a metagame at large, and will be able to figure out ways to beat those decks, as and when they need to. And when they do, I'll take their lists and play it at progress.
So we move into an exciting meta. We've got pre-release this weekend. We've got draft this weekend. If you're attending,
I am. I need to go and do some research on Tough Nut this afternoon.
Yep. We've got the first weekend of the set release where there will be a major event, and then we're straight into the PQ season.
Yes, we are, John.
And we're playing that weekend.
I should probably buy a ticket for that, yeah.
Yeah, you should buy a ticket for that, because we're playing that weekend.
Yeah.
With all of this, that's what it amounts to.
Yeah, and the question is, what do I play, John?
Okay, so we know you're going to play Rhinar, but for now,
let's pretend for a second that
that we don't know that. Well, I think you're playing Care.
KO or Rhinar or Gravy or...
I don't think you're playing Gravy. I think you've been given a bunch of new brute cards. You will be on KO, Rhinar. I don't think you'll put the testing in to sort out one of the new brutes and be confident. I think you'd rather wait a week, unless one of them does amazingly well. Like if somebody comes out with the RKO build at that first weekend on release weekend.
Maybe. I think the one that probably has the potential to do the most is probably Tough Nut. I think Tough Nut's got potential. He's a good kid, and also he's a numbers deck, and I do like my numbers deck.
In that case, it's fine. So,
maybe, I think again, it depends not only just on like obviously like if I can hammer out a list that I like, but also a list that works into.
For once, we're having this conversation. I'm saying maybe you should play Rhinar.
Maybe you should play Rhinar. Yeah.
Like for once. Yeah. Normally, I'm saying don't play Rhinar and do the opposite. So now I'm going to say play Rhinar, and you're not going to do it, are you?
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Still got loads of time, John.
Well,
loads of time.
We got some time. It's an exciting time.
Loads of time. We've got at least 2 more episodes of EPOT before then. So.
At least, and maybe a special. Who knows? Who knows what we'll find time for. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Energy Potion, a Flesh and Blood podcast. If you liked it, please consider subscribing for more. If you disagree with any of these opinions, please let us know in the comments and we'll either defend them robustly or completely cave and agree with you. This podcast was made possible with help from the team at Le Bon 22 Productions and a special donation from the Cracked Bauble Appreciation Society and their sponsors.